There are two things that happen in the spiritual world that people talk about, but I'd like to really kind of dive in a little bit deeper and help you to understand how they work. These two things are called downloads and rewiring. Now we hear the terms and we kind of have a gist and understanding of what they are. But if we can dive deep into it today, I want to talk about why they happen, how to maybe recognize when it's happened, and how it happens as well. So let's start with rewiring. Now, you've heard people say, oh, I got rewired, or maybe you're being rewired, things like this. When they're saying that, what they're talking about is an adjustment to your three bodies. So let me start first with just a quick refresher if you've already heard this, or new if you haven't heard this yet. But we have three bodies. We've got our physical body, our programming body, which is our mental mind on linear time, which is our mind. And we have our spiritual body, which is our spirit. These three bodies are best in alignment. The spiritual body, the programming body, and the physical body. When those three bodies are aligned, that's when we are centered on our spiritual path. This alignment can become off for a lot of different reasons. And rewiring, in essence, is just changing the alignment in such a way that it either pulls those three bodies back together to get you back in line, or it shifts how the bodies interact with each other in a way to get you to the next level or place on your spiritual path or experience even. Let me break that down a little bit. When you get rewired because you are out of alignment, it's simple. The rewiring helps bring those three bodies back into alignment so you can move more smoothly on your path. That's the base. That's the basic level of rewiring. When it gets a little bit more complicated, it's because there's something coming up on the path that you're going to need to be able to dive into or handle or tackle or experience in a certain way. And you might need a little shift in how those three bodies align in order to experience it. This is where the rewiring comes in. Who rewires you? That's like a core question here, right? You're rewired by your higher self, by your own intent, sometimes by guides, by source, by whatever fits that box for you that is supportive to you energetically from the other side. They will come in, they'll rewire you, they'll adjust you just a little bit in order for you to, like I said, get back into alignment so you can smoothly start walking on your path again, or they will rewire you kind of in preparation for something that's coming up. Perhaps we'll go with a very basic example. Perhaps you're opening up your intuition and you're developing your intuition, and you have the ability to feel intuitive messages. But maybe coming up on your path, your guides look ahead and say, okay, they're going to need to start to be able to hear intuitive messages as well. But the way that your bodies are aligned right now, they're only aligned for feeling that intuitive information. So your guides might work with you to rewire you so that you can now receive intuitive information through sound or sight or something else. Many times rewiring happens when you are expanding abilities, taking on new tasks. You need the ability to do new things. There's a whole plethora of reasons why you can be rewired, but it's always good. It's always good. And it's always a sign that you're growing spiritually and that you're stepping into kind of the next chapter of that spiritual path of yours. And now you just need this fine-tuned way of being in order to be in that next chapter. Now, how do you know if you're being rewired? Many times you won't, and that's okay. Because as you listen to this, if you hadn't heard about rewiring up to this point, I guarantee you've had a moment where you were rewired to be able to handle something new. What it looks like if you're not aware that you're being rewired, it's a very loving, beautiful alignment type, situation. But if you're not aware of it, what does that look like? Well, you step into another level of life or situation or something like this, and you find yourself handling it oddly with more ease. And you're like, wow. For example, you could wake up one morning, you no longer have a fear of heights, and you can't figure out why you no longer have a fear of heights. That's really weird. chances are good, your guides, your team, your support rewired you to release that fear of heights because something's coming up in the future that you're going to need to not be afraid of heights in order to experience it for your highest good. Who knows? Maybe you're going to get invited by, you know, I don't know, your celebrity crush to go skydiving. I don't know. And you're going to, and you'll actually say yes. And then you'll be like, wow, I've always been afraid of heights and now I'm not quite sure why. That's the feeling of rewiring. It's a shift always in a positive direction, always in a positive direction. If you feel you're rewired negatively, that's not what's happening here. Rewiring is always in a positive direction to help you function, think, release in such a way that it benefits what's coming up on your path. Sometimes you'll know it. I'll explain it like this. Back to the 3 bodies. When you get rewired, if it's for alignment, then everything sort of falls into place. That's super subtle. Many times it's hard to pick up on if that's happening. It's more often easier to pick up on when it's not subtle, when it's a rewiring to shift how the bodies align with each other in order to get you to that next step, losing the fear of heights or something like that, or gaining a new, opening up to a new sense of abilities intuitively. When that happens, typically you'll know that you're being rewired because there'll be at first an imbalance in the 3 bodies. Let's go with the intuitive example. Because many, many times when you have an imbalance with the 3 bodies, your physical body will subtly react to that. Maybe your sleep patterns will change, or maybe you're, more hot than normal or more cold than normal. Maybe you're tired in the middle of the day when you weren't before, or maybe you aren't as hungry as you normally were, or maybe you're just ravenous and you just want to eat all the time. So something out of the normal happened that's very subtle. It could even be, unfortunately, like headaches or, aches in your legs or something like this. It can be very, very subtle. So let's take the intuitive example. Let's say that you have the intuitive ability currently to be able to feel things, and that's a wonderful thing. And then your guides say, okay, coming up on the path, there's going to be a situation where she's going to need to see things intuitively as well, because that's going to be the most helpful situation. So we're going to have to open up her intuitive channel and adjust it, rewire it in such a way that now she can see intuitive messages as well. So you might wake up the next morning. A lot of times rewiring happens at night. You might wake up the next morning and have subtle aches in your shoulders or something like this. This is because in order to shift you from where your bodies were aligned into a new alignment where you can now access intuitive messages visually through your intuitive channel, that kind of took you out of alignment for a little bit, and it's going to take a little bit for them to start to adjust and realign. Another way to say this is when you become rewired, if there's your spiritual body and this is your physical body, we'll just take it down to these 2. Okay. When you're rewired, your spiritual body is going to raise in vibration because it's always toward a positive. So your physical body is still going to be here. Now it's going to need to catch up a little bit. I remember when I first started reading, intuitively as a professional, when I would tap in, the back of my skull would ache. It was dull, but it was distinct. And it was like, and then I would stop the session, it would be all done, and I'd go home and it didn't ache. And it only did it when I tapped in. And I remember thinking, that's really weird. I wonder if this is what it feels like to be intuitive. And it turns out it wasn't. It was just that I had opened so suddenly intuitively that my spiritual body raised in vibration very quickly, but my physical body didn't raise as fast. So every time I would really open up that channel and tap in, my spiritual body would raise up here, but my physical body would still be here. So that imbalance caused an ache in the back of my head. Eventually, the physical body would catch up. Those bodies would all get aligned again. And then, I didn't feel that ache. And I actually felt that ache for quite some time, but that changed. So this is a way that you can know, all right, I've been rewired. Something shifted within me energetically. It may be a subtle effect to your physical body, not always, but something shifted inside of me energetically that now fill in the blank. Now I can do this with more ease, or now this experience, I'm able to experience this without fear, or I can, take a bigger leap than I took before. Typically comes with a rewiring. Many times it's done at night. You go to bed, you wake up, and you're rewired, and you're like, oh, that's funny. I got like a kink in my neck, or, or my eyes are twitching all day for a day or something like this. Very subtle, small physical symptoms. Sometimes, like I said, none at all, no symptoms at all. And other times you'll need to be rewired very quickly. And so it might be something sudden. I remember getting into a golf cart accident. I know that's, sounds kind of silly, but got into a very minor golf cart accident. But the way that, the cart hit something, I ended up falling off the side of it because there was it wasn't like a golf cart. It was pretty open. And I fell off the side of it and landed on the ground. And I got back up, made sure everyone was okay. We all went back home. And then I started to see things it was almost like every now and then this like sort of double vision thing would happen. And I thought, well, I'm going to want to go get that checked out. But turns out it kind of calmed and it went away. And then, some abilities that I had when it came to healing work really started to amplify. And I sat down with the energy worker that I went to, and she was absolutely amazing. And I said, yeah, this really weird thing happened. All of a sudden I had a day where there was this kind of these weird visuals, and then that went away. And then, my healing capabilities really ramped up after that. And she picked up on it right away. She said, did you have any sudden jolting moments? And I was like, as a matter of fact, that morning there was a golf cart accident. And she was like, yeah, I feel like you were rewired. They needed to just kind of jolt, those three bodies of yours into a different kind of alignment. So in essence, that's rewiring. It can happen in a lot of different ways. It's always wonderful. It's always good. It's always a very, very good thing. And I think it's really loving if you think about it as well, because your source, your higher self, your guides are doing this for you because they see what's coming and they're helping you get there. And I think it's really, really, really great. It's another moment that I tell people, you have a team, you're watched out for, you're supported, you're loved, you're not alone. You're not alone. Now let's talk about downloads. Kind of similar, just a little bit different. Downloads are when you get, in essence, a download of information that you didn't have before. This could be knowledge or understanding. It's most often knowledge or understanding that you just didn't have a moment ago. You can, and many times this will happen, especially to intuitives when they visit different locations, different countries, different topographies, different land, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes, you can go on vacation to Italy and next thing you know, you've got some downloaded information that came in. Same thing as rewiring. Downloads always happen for your highest good, looking for what's coming up on your path. What does this person need? Your source, your guides, your loved ones, your higher self says, okay, what do they need? All right, they need this information in order to approach this upcoming situation for the highest good of all. So they're going to download that information into your energetic system. It's going to kind of percolate up, and then, now you have that information, you can move forward. What does this look like? Downloads are typically slow. They're not usually jarring at all. You wouldn't even know that they're happening. Again, if you're watching this video, you've probably already had one. And I mean, think about it. If you are your higher self up there and you're watching you down here running around and you go, oh, coming up, she's going to need to understand this and it's going to help her. You're going to send that little understanding down. It's like pneumatic tube. You're going to send it right on down. It's always a good thing. It's always wonderful, but it's subtle. Downloads are very, very subtle. I have yet to hear anyone have like sensations around it or feelings around it. I know that's possible. And so if you have, yes, but more often than not, people don't even know that they're having them. Don't even know that it's coming in. It's just knowledge and wisdom. It's another way to look at it is kind of uncovering more of your connection and getting more information. The way that it kind of comes to play is it's not like you go to bed one night, you wake up the next night, you totally understand something you didn't understand before. It's more like over the course of a few days or even a few weeks, you will start to see things very differently and understand something on a level that you didn't understand it before. You don't recall reading a book about it. You don't recall watching a documentary about it or anything like this, or going to a class. It's just all of a sudden you're like, wow, I really get it. And many times we take this as an aha moment. Oh, I understand it now. But sometimes it's a download. And sometimes you do have that moment of, oh, wow, I really understand that now. Like I get it. And it's not necessarily that it just clicked. It's that, again, your team, your support structure is helping you to understand something at a deeper level because it's going to benefit you on your upcoming path. So downloads many times happen at night. Sometimes it happens because you're in a different location. If you make a really big decision in life, you're either going to go that way or you're going to go that way, and you make that decision. That's quite often when a download might come, because now that you've made such a sharp decision to go this way, now they look ahead and go, okay, well, this is what's coming. So they're going to need a little bit more information. Yet another way that your team, your guides, your higher self supports you here on earth. It's a very loving thing. It's kind of like if your best friend was running a marathon across the country and you were driving in a car next to him, you're the guide, you're driving in a car next to him and you got gear, the car's just full of gear, and you got your weather app and you're looking ahead and you're like, oh, all right, the next town over, there's snow, and you grab a coat and you throw the coat at your friend and say, here, put that on. That you're going to need that. That's what rewiring is. That's what downloads are. So when you hear people say, oh, I got a download and it's about this and it's about that, it's about that, it's extra information that's come to them from their higher source. That's really, in summary, what it is. And it's cool because it's what they need on their path. When you hear someone say, I feel like I got rewired, again, really cool. It's what they need on their path. That's going to open some sort of a door for them to be able to do or experience something that they might have struggled before, but now they won't because they've been rewired or they received a download. I just wanted to spend a little time talking about those two topics because I know the word's thrown out there, a bit, and I really wanted to just sit with you today and say, hey, let's really think through what this is. Because when you do that, when you think through what these things really are and what's happening around you, you bring more awareness to it, then you start to experience it. You start to realize, wait a minute, I'm now aware of this. Maybe this is a download, or maybe there's some rewiring happening. I will tell you, it doesn't happen frequently. It's not a frequent thing. And it's different for everybody. But for me, for example, maybe I've experienced like one download a year of some sort of information or something like that. And that's probably because I'm such a curious person that I'm, always in guide communication anyway, trying to get more information and understanding and knowledge so I can, bring that together. But, rewiring, it's happened to me a handful of times. It's just not incredibly common, but it pretty much happens to everyone, and we don't even know it. And that's cool. It's just another way to express how your spiritual team, your higher source, is helping you on your journey, on this path to get to where, in essence, you really want to get to. I think it's a really beautiful thing.